Welcome to the Women in Fitness Business podcast, a podcast to help you attract incredible clients, make more money, and live the life of your dreams.
Welcome to Rick today. He's a holistic coach who supports humans to be more human by getting familiar with their repeating patterns and shadows. They learn how to get out of their own way and live a more connected and meaningful life. So welcome, Rick. It's so good to have you. This is going to be an interesting topic, something very different to what we've normally done on these podcasts. But I just want to start with a little bit of a background. You in a previous life was also in the fitness industry as a coach. Do you mind just diving into a little bit about how that came about and your journey in the fitness industry?
Yeah, I was thinking about it yesterday about how long it's been since we used to hang out as fitness business coaches. I think it's like 12 or 15 years or something. Is that right?
It would have to be, yeah. It would have to be.
Yeah.
So, King's Cliff.
Yeah. We had fun, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the themes that pops up. Like, business can be really fun. I think that the lightness and just the fun aspect of whatever you're doing is super important. So I try not to take myself too seriously. So if I get down too many serious rabbit holes, just like pull me out. Yeah, my first half of my working life was in the fitness industry, and I did a variety of personal training studios and gyms, and I danced around a little bit and tried everything on. And I kind of had the fortune to work with a guy in Brisbane called Jason Sugars, and he was Brad Sugars' brother. Remember Brad Sugars had national coaching?
Yes.
Like 21, I got out of uni and started the business. And my business partner, by accident, was Brad Sugars' brother. I just walked into systems, and after a couple of years of running that business, we went our separate ways, but I kind of got infused with like how to look at business through a systemic kind of way. And that was really cool. That kind of really shaped the next couple of years or next 20 years, really. And then, fast forward, I tried on a few different hats in regards to personal training studios, gyms, in-house personal training. And I really love the business systemization side of it, to be honest. Yeah, I like the fact that we could put that in and it would allow us to have more time to be human with the humans. We could let the system do the system. So I really like that connection part of it. So that's always been a bit of a theme. And then, I moved back up to the coast from Melbourne, and I was kind of done with just running my own personal training business. I felt like I had enough business experience. We started the little franchise and systemized that and sold that and had lots of different experiences, and it kind of fell into business coaching just because I got connected with a few people and just started helping, and then I really enjoyed it. Like, I really love the business side of it. I love the human side of it. So that was probably 15 years ago, and I did probably 4 or 5, maybe 3 or 4 years of business coaching, specifically for people in the fitness industry. And it was rad. Like, it was really fun. I had a young child. My boy's 15 now, so he was just born, so he was 1 and 2. So I was working under the house doing calls like this, and I had a mastermind, and I had group stuff, and I had big expensive one-on-one stuff, and it was really fun. Like, I really enjoyed expanding that part of it, and then got to meet cool people like you and hang out and build fun stuff. So that part of life was exciting. and one thing I've learned about me is it's exciting until it's not. Looking back now at my patterns, and it's like 2 or 3 years, and I'm like, all right, what's next? What else? And I know that about me with business, and then with the business coaching, I got to a point where I was ended up coaching a lot of CrossFit affiliates, and back when CrossFit was really hot, and I was like, damn, these guys are having fun. And I could run a gym like this, like kind of with my eyes closed, just with the experience I had. And I'd moved into a smaller town that didn't have a CrossFit gym, so the environment was right to move out of the coaching and move back into bricks and mortar just for myself. So I sold my coaching business and started a CrossFit affiliate, and it was basically like a nightclub. Like, it was all about the playlist and all about having fun and all about moving. And that was 5 or 6 years of just pure enjoyment. And that's kind of yeah, got me to, and that's where the health stuff started to kick in, and that the health things happened. And I don't know how far you want to go down that rabbit hole, but had some health things that really changed the direction of my life. And I guess the point I want to make in that is, like, I understand explicitly the impact of burnout and how we can fall into the pushing and pushing and pushing for our business to try and make ends meet, try and provide for our family, all of the stuff when it comes to small business. And yeah, I know firsthand the physical, mental, emotional impact that can have, because it fucking nailed me. That was kind of what led me to a transition into more of holistic health, physical, mental, emotional, being connected rather than just sort of concentrating on the physical.
You mentioned a lot about fun, and it's something that's come up this week as well for a few of my people. You know, my coach even said it to me. She's like, the more fun you have in business, the more money you'll make. And it's just like what you said. It's, you know, we get so caught up in push, and then we let go of the things that do make us excited, that we do love to do. And then it's not until something like challenging what you've had. And, you know, if you mind just touching a tiny bit on what happened, because it was very life transforming for you. Like, what happened, it's not just a small health issue, it was quite large. So do you mind just touching a little bit on that, just so we can see, you know, how big the milestone was?
You know how, like, when we're talking about, I don't know if you're religious or not, but there's BC and AD, like before Christ and death. I feel like this was my BC moment in life. Like, I had a life leading up to this episode, and then there's been a life leading after it. So there's really definitive chapters. So I grew up with epilepsy, and it was controlled mostly throughout my life, but I had pretty consistent, when I say consistent, I mean once every year I'd have a pretty big seizure. And that was when I got stressed and that sort of thing. So that was just something I lived with. I had to kind of add medications and balance it as my life changed and all the rest of it. And then probably year 5 in the business, I was just pushing really hard. We doubled our space and expanded and was building a house, and all the things that you feel like I felt like in life I needed to chase to feel worthy. I just started having seizures again. So we tried to medicate the shit out of it. Didn't quite work. I essentially had to, I'm just trying to think of the order because it was all a bit blurry. So the first point was to heavily medicate so I wouldn't have more seizures. And then from that, I couldn't work because I could basically, my balance was off and my cognition was all off the shop. And so I ended up getting tested to see if I could have brain surgery for them to remove the cells that were causing the epilepsy. And luckily enough, I was a candidate for that, but I had to wait 18 months. So sold the gym, and that was, I don't know, it was soul destroying because it was family. I put everything into it. I built it up. I felt an obligation that this was people's happy place, and how they connected and felt better about themselves, and I felt like I'd let them down. So yeah, I had brain surgery 18 months later, and in the surgery had a stroke because they clamped blood vessels in the brain. Woke up without epilepsy, but woke up with not much function in my left side. I don't want to skip over and dismiss that bit because living with epilepsy is really challenging, like more the anxiety of not knowing when you're going to have a seizure, more so than actually having seizures. When I woke up and I'm like, did you get it? And the surgeon's like, yeah, we've got everything, but you had a small stroke and we're going to have to rebuild this left side. I'm like, no problem. Sweet. All with that. As long as you got what we came here to get, I'm done. So yeah, that led to a couple of years of rehab and off to stroke rehab, which I kind of wasn't expecting. Stay-at-home dad. And then I started studying again and sort of did some study in community service and was going down that path. Like, I'm never going to coach again. I don't want to. I don't trust myself because of how hard I burnt out. I went in the community service sector for a little while and just didn't like all the red tape. And then from there, I kind of fell into coaching because I myself got a holistic coach because I was just struggling with life. Like, I tried psychologists and that didn't really land for me. A little bit superficial, I guess. So I found a guy in the US and he really helped me connect my physical, mental, emotional worlds. And I'd never been down that path very much before. I've done a fair bit of stuff, a lot in physical, but not really how it connects to the mental, emotional. And guess it's just that story of like, this has impacted me so much and it's created who I am, a connection to myself. And now I just want to bring that to other people. Pretty much stock standard story of like how we, that kind of wounded healer thing of like, I received this and now I want to help other people in the same situation. That's the probably 7-minute version.
As they say, your message, and what you go through, then you can help others do it because it's an integrity thing. You have experienced it so you can help other people, which I'm very big on, as we know.
Yeah. And I think that point leads to like why I have a sweet spot for fitness business owners, because more than anyone else, I know what they're going through.
Yes.
I've got a couple of one-on-one clients at the moment who are in fitness businesses and, we get each other and that really helps.
It makes a huge difference.
Have that lived experience.
Your approach as a holistic coach focuses on helping people become more human by understanding their repeating patterns and shadows. Do you mind just explaining what this process entails and why it's so important for living a more connected and meaningful life?
I think what I learned through my experience was that connection is really important and disconnection is really prevalent. My way through my struggles was to just lone wolf the shit out of it, not tell anyone and just get on with it. Big boys don't cry, let's go, that kind of thing. And it kind of just didn't serve me. So I needed to lean into different ways to connect with myself. And it's kind of started with having a coach who worked under that model of integrating that physical, mental, emotional. And then even while working with him, I was still noticing that I was isolating, and when things were coming up, I'd withdraw rather than lean into it. So I kind of jumped into a men's circle, and then every week I'd have to confront what was happening and get to share and learn how to connect with myself and with others in that way. So that was kind of the step for me. And I think what I realized and what I saw both in circle and in my own coaching was just how simple and how beautiful it is when you can hear someone else's stories and it helps you connect with your own. I guess that's what, for me, the connection piece is all about in regards to the holistic side of it. It's, can I get to know myself in a way that I don't currently? I guess what I mean by that is I and most of us have a tendency to push parts of ourselves away that we don't like. This is where the fun can come in, because this is like, instead of pushing that part away, can we get it in a headlock, bring it in, give it a hug, smile at it and go, I see you doing your thing again. I think that kind of takes me to, like, I have a little framework that I use specifically with coaching clients because I just find it's easier with a frame. I just use really simple terms. So it's like, get to know yourself better. And part of that is looking at what parts are you pushing away and what parts are you numbing, what parts are you avoiding. And to do that with clients, I have 5 steps, and it just starts. The first one is just curiosity. The hard part, because a lot of people are not willing to look for the fear of like what's on the other side of the door. There's probably an undertone of courage that comes with that curiosity. Of people like, all right, I'm dragging my ass on the ground here, something's got to change. Like normally it's, unfortunately, most people are not that proactive unless there's something relatively large happening in their life that I'll have a look at this stuff. So there's a curiosity, and then that leads to awareness. That's the second step. And that's just shining a light on your shit. We don't know what unconscious patterns are controlling us or influencing our behaviors until we shine a light on them. I think it's the key of everything. A lot of this, and we might talk about self-sabotage later, but when we move into self-sabotage, it's unconsciously trying to meet something that we don't really know. And this awareness piece just shines the light on that. Even if you don't change it, it's just shining a light on it. That's the second part. And the third part is another A word, acceptance. And this is the bit that lots of people get caught up on. It's like, oh, I see my shit, but I really don't want to own that. I don't want to accept it. Maybe there's some shame or guilt associated with it. So really working on acceptance and looking at the stories that you've created around yourself, around that part. It can be really freeing to finally say that I accept that shit part of myself. And then with that comes a softening, a dissolving of the tension or the cage that's built around that story. Yeah, people can start to see life with slightly different eyes. Yeah, it's interesting. We've got curiosity, awareness, acceptance. And then the fourth part's just integration. Really, the integration's like, how do I embody this? How do I live this in my everyday life? How do I try this on and feel it and see when the stories arise and act accordingly? So it's kind of taking all of the three parts, the curiosity, the awareness and the acceptance, and actually then putting it into some embodied practice, I guess. And I hear myself say those words, I'm like, oh, I'm turning into that dickhead again. I have a real aversion to like people who misuse big words. And it just annoys me. And sometimes I find myself like, oh, you're turning into that guy that you really hate. Yeah, so that's the fourth part. And the fifth part's just the return. It's like, now I know this bit about me and I'm looking through these new eyes. What does it look like when I return back to life? Like, what does it look like when I return to that relationship that triggered me? What does it look like when I turn back to that business that's burnt me out and I was trying to do it through validation? Like, that's the juicy bit. Like, you come back with a new set of eyes. Yeah, those 5 steps can just be rinsed and repeated for different parts of different things, depending on whether I'm working with a business owner or in relationship or recovering from chronic stress or whatever it is. So that's kind of my simple frame, and it allowed lots of flexibility to not be one size fits all. So it could be adapted to, which I think is really important just in life.
Yes. And as we all know, I'm definitely not a one size fits all sort of girl. Like, I'm very vocal about that when it comes to everything. But that is just such a powerful framework that you just shared, because when we bring it into business and look at a business side, like, as you know, and have coached so many people like myself, is that, people reach certain levels and then all of a sudden they do start to sabotage. They have these patterns, they have these thoughts or beliefs, and that really does impact their growth. So to have a framework like that is really powerful in just identifying what is holding them back, which I suppose leads me to my next question, is that most people do struggle with self-sabotage and getting in their own way, especially when it does come to that business side about increasing as well. Can you just share some common patterns or shadows that you've encountered in your coaching and how you help clients overcome that?
That's a really good question. And I think it's at the core of everything I do, because it's only when people are tripping themselves up that they actually come to realize that they might need some help on this. I think being in business, especially your own business, is this perfect little ecosystem to see where your triggers are and where there's awareness and where there's not. Like, it's really similar to being in a relationship where you get tested in different ways. Being in business, like the whole imposter thing, like not enough, like people don't
too much. I can't say this.
Clients leave, or they take it personally. Like, it's an ecosystem of triggers, basically.
Yeah. I just didn't hit my milestone this month. This means this, so much.
I even find now, like, I had a client leave the other day because they'd done so well and they'd got to that return phase and they were nailing live. I'm just like, I haven't done a very good job there. Just, it's such an ingrained pattern from like clients leaving. And it's that interesting part of, in my work, I want them to leave. I want them to go. Because of being selling in the fitness industry, I've got this little default pattern of mine that just takes it personally when someone leaves.
Yes, which many could relate to listening to this. Yeah.
And that hits me, it still hits me. And I realize that theoretically it's not true, but emotionally and the response in my body is still there. I guess that's the first thing, is like the business ecosystem is just full of triggers, and it's a mirror to see where we need to do work and where we don't. There's this really interesting theory called the upper limit theory. And it's like, in our mind, we have this, or in our subconscious, we have this version of like the thing we can't go past, whether it's, the income, whether it's the client number, whether it's in relationship. Most of us have this story of like, oh, this is me. This is like the skills that I have and the parameters that I have, and our conditioning leads us to that. And we often sabotage to that point. I find that just in human nature, just that concept to be intrinsically super fucking interesting. Essentially how we build a cage and we keep ourselves in this cage. And this is what links back to, for me, for the self-sabotage, is like each action of self-sabotage is another bar in the cage. And the cages are like limiting theory. It's like, no, I can't be bigger than this.
But it's not safe to go bigger than this.
Yeah. Self-sabotage as a topic, it's essentially my entire work is working with people who are getting in their own way. A really interesting question around self-sabotage is, how do you benefit from, let's say we'll use a fitness example, like let's say you're eating junk food because you're emotional eating because you're getting stressed. How do you benefit from that behavior? And most people go, well, I don't, because I put on weight and I feel shit. But if we really look at it, it's like you benefit because you don't have to feel the feelings that you need to feel. So there's always a benefit to the sabotage.
Yeah. There's a payoff.
I think there's a payoff, and it may not be the payoff that we want. Like often it's attached to negative stuff, whether it's avoidance or numbing or keeping ourselves small so we don't put ourselves out there and get rejected as a service, or finding our voice. Like all of this, we have these sneaky ways of sabotaging so we keep ourselves in our cage. It's really fucking cool when we can start to question the beliefs, and just one pole, like one bar of the cage by bar, we just start to rattle them, and they're not as solid, and they can start to stick a foot out and go, oh, it's not that bad out there. No,
I'm not going to die.
I'm not going to die. And people don't give a shit. I really like that process of evidence-based crushing of limiting beliefs, I guess it is. It's like, let's just, instead of jumping, like taking all the bars down and jumping out of your cage, let's just shake a bar loose and put one foot in the water and see what it looks like to actually step into that a little bit. Is that okay? Oh yeah, that wasn't too bad. And that's the feedback loop, isn't it? It's like, I didn't die. Maybe I can do a little bit more. And I've completely had my own version of this. Like I'm in the trenches with all my clients around. I'm still working on my stuff. And I've always had a story about putting myself out there. And the pattern for me was, as a teenager, I had a story that I was too much, that I talked myself up too much, and I'd get ridiculed by a couple of friends of talking myself up too much. So most of my life, I've had a sensitivity of saying less than more, because I didn't want to be perceived right back from then as like the guy that talks himself up. And it was only like about 6 months ago that I actually realized this. I'm like, oh, this has impacted how I've had a voice my whole life, and how I've preferred to operate in the shadows rather than really throwing myself up. It's the reason I don't like doing social media and all of that stuff. It took me 46 years to find that point. But now that point, I've found it. I can see how that bar was holding me back, and I've loosened it a little bit. The website's come out. I'm doing a newsletter for my crew. I'm about to start a podcast. I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, you're the same 14-year-old that didn't want to have a voice. That's the power of looking at your patterns. I think the other part of that is, if we question what the benefit is, we can also question what the consequence is. What happens if I sabotage this? What are the knock-on consequences? And that's really interesting, because that's the literal stuff that we can see. It's like, oh yeah, I don't get that income figure, or I don't get this, or whatever the tangible thing is that you miss out on. That's, to me, is all just shining the light of awareness and seeing how our patterns influence our present.
And it's important just to note that we can see these people online and think that their life is perfect. However, as coaches, we know that that's not the truth. Everyone, and this is what I say to my clients all of the time, it's like everyone is going through different things. We're all on a journey of growth and evolution and being the best version that we are. You're not alone. And that's, why we mentioned before, that connection is just so important. It's because we bring that together to go, you aren't alone.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm calling my podcast Humaning, because it's just that, like, we're all humans. Like, we all have these experiences that shape us.
Yeah.
And part of it for me is actually acknowledging my humanness and kind of laughing at it. Like, oh, you're doing that thing again. That's pretty funny. You're still doing that. Like, having a lightness to it. And I think I've experienced just recently also with audio and stuff, that people have connected to listening to other people's human experience, and it's relaxed them. You go, oh, I'm not so, messed up, because that's the same. Humanizing our existence, especially in this world of AI where everything can look rad and sleek and like
perfect. Especially when we look at some Instagram profiles, that's a whole nother story.
We could do a whole podcast on that, Colin.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Just on that, like I imagine that activates you so much because you see the human side of these people. You see what's behind the story. And why can't we just accept our reality?
I had a situation last week. This is getting real controversial. Is very close to someone that is very well known in the fitness industry. And what is being portrayed to their hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram is a complete opposite of what's really going on in real life. And it's not the first story I heard. Like there is a lot I hear. And
how often would that happen?
I think the biggest one that probably really got to me last week was, I think it was James Smith. He was talking on, I think we watched his YouTube on the weekend, because this was a topic like what I were talking about influencers. And we started watching James Smith. He had a good one that came up and, he was saying that he went to a Bondi gym. So what they did was these influencers would do calorie reduction, get, strip right down into peak physique, take 5 or 6 outfits and do photo shoots for the content for the next 6 months. And that's the content that then use. And it's just like, this is what people are seeing in their feeds every day and they think this is reality when it's actually not the truth.
There's such a big gap between reality and what they want to put out there.
Yes.
It's funny because I probably overcorrect the other way. Like I converge on being too human. I get it. But that's just me. Like it's how I am if you and I are talking down the street. Like it's just how I am. A lot of people are not yet comfortable with their humanness. So I'm trying to learn to temper it a little bit around
get that medium.
the questions that I ask, and yeah, it's interesting.
Now, your background in fitness business coaching really adds that unique dimension to your coaching. So how has your experience in the fitness industry influenced your approach to this holistic coaching and just supporting your clients' overall well-being?
One of the things that I picked up from the fitness industry was having a real outcome focus. So, you probably do it a lot in your coaching. It's like, what's the goal? What's the process? Let's like lock into that. And even in running a fitness business on a daily level, it's like you have clients, what's the goal? How often you can turn up? What's the food? Like there's a plan. Early on, I was using the same model in this coaching domain. And I was coming in and I was naively shaping the agenda of the person because I was using the fitness model. I was like, all right, what's the goal? We're going to do this, we're going to do this, and then we'll get to here and we'll loosen this. And unfortunately, this type of work doesn't work that way because if we're looking in the mental, emotional realms, it's a lot of this is intuitive based and we don't know what the outcome is until we loosen some of the parts. And for them to own what their outcome is looks different after they see the world through different eyes. So I had to learn really quickly that old model for me didn't work. And it was so ingrained because I was on repeat for 25 years. So it wouldn't matter whether it was in fitness business coaching or actually running the business, that was my system. And I had to really quickly learn to let's pull back from this. And luckily my coach that I had who helped me in the US, he really taught me how to be present and work with people with my intuition and to access their intuition. And that sounds a bit woo-woo, but it's really just about being present and asking curious questions. So to be honest, that world led me to a little bit of a dead end. If anything, I can relate really well with small business owners. So there's that shared experience side of it. But I had to learn to get to these mental, emotional places. I had to use a different model. I had to come up with my own model and one that was based in presence and giving permission to feel and to talk about feeling and how that links to what would like that sort of part of it. And that work can't really have an agenda. It's really interesting because I've come from this goal-driven, outcome-focused model to be like, let's just be less shit. Let's not be sabotaging. Let's see see life through a different set of eyes. Let's have more joy. Let's have more grace. Let's have these things in life that have potentially fallen to the wayside because we're so focused on the outcome. So yeah, it's had a kind of a mixture of an impact, both positive and negative.
And then we get on that, when something happens, we get a meeting and then it just loops over. It was interesting. Even this week, I've got a client who was going through a really tough challenge. And it's like, knowing that there is no perfect formula for the answer to this, it's like, all right, really in her head, very emotional. It's like, all right, let's just take a step back. I've got 1,000,001 tools for you. But what is it that you need right now? And I gave her a little process to go within, use the intuition. She sent me a message probably a couple hours later, had the biggest breakthrough, has gone, oh my God, I've seen my pattern. This is what I'm doing, la, 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 la. So she sent me that message, and probably an hour later, she had 4 new clients within the hour because something had happened locally that just resulted in that. She's like, oh my God, this stuff is incredible. That work is so powerful. We really do start to trust ourselves. And instead of getting into logic and thinking how things should be, just taking that little step back and giving yourself some space. So powerful.
And this is why people should work with you. And it's the experience of that as well. It's not like you said, you have all the tools. I can give you all the stuff, all the tactics, but I also need you to connect in on what do you really need? Like that's the perfect example of the combination between, fitness business coaching, but also my holistic coaching. It's the mix, and just that really simple premise of connecting back to ourselves. We can get lost. For me, busyness was a way to not feel. So I'm fucking good at getting busy because I wanted to avoid it.
We all are.
Yeah. If we can slow down as business owners, and I'm putting myself in that, like you just said, and breathe and what do I actually really need right now? Oh, right. That connection, the word connection is really big for me because I feel the opposite of connection is disconnection. And with disconnection comes loneliness and stress and overwhelm and all of the aspects of it. And we're so conditioned to push that it's so easy to disconnect.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Slow the fuck down.
So you got to slow down and speed up. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
Just remove yourself from everything, the technology at all. Just come back within, and then, if you need a tool after that, I'll give it to you. But you first need to identify what's going on.
Yeah. And I think for me, I have an unwavering belief that everyone is the expert of their own life.
100% agree.
And they've just got to get out of their own way to see it and actually have faith in their own wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the danger with looking for someone to fix or rescue or give me all the answers. It's like, you got the answers. Let's just get the right question. Let's get the space to ask them. And I think and this is another thing that I probably carried over from the fitness industry. It was like the rescuing gene. It's like, I'll give you the solution that you need to get the goal. And again, that became a pattern. I was like, fuck, I'm in this new realm. And the fixer just wants to jump out and provide here's the plan. And that's been a really interesting pattern for me to work with and pull the threads of that. And where did I learn that, and how has it influenced my life, and how do I work with it when he still pops up?
Yes.
And wants to jump in and feel validated that, I'm doing a good job. This general connection as a theme is an amazing asset in business. Are you connected to your client? Are you connected to your staff? Are you connected to yourself? You can have all the stuff. You can have the best gym. You can have the best marketing. But if there's no human connection, that's what people want. While they're there.
Absolutely.
And I just think if we skip over it for the stuff, we're leaving a lot on the table.
Yeah. And that's where the overwhelm comes into play as well, because they just push, trying to find the external answers for something that could be answered internally. This approach that you have to living a more connected life, I love it. What are some practical steps or exercises that you recommend for people looking to build deeper connections with themselves and others? Yeah,
it's probably just a follow-on of what we were just talking about. Like, I guess the first part is probably slowing down enough to see where you're disconnected and to see, like, what are your patterns in disconnection? Do you hit Instagram? Do you, jump on TikTok? Do you withdraw from public? Do you eat your way out of it? Like, what are the patterns or the behaviors that are just your go-tos? Because most of those patterns and go-tos, there'll be a little present underneath it. There'll be a little bit of something that you don't want to be feeling. And that's okay, because that's what, how we've got through and how we've stayed functional and all the rest of it. So probably the first step is just to have some awareness of, how do I hide? How do I numb? How do I distract? And most people within 5 seconds probably go, tick, 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 go, this is what I do. We know what we do, and we still do it, and it's okay. Not to shame anyone, it's just to see the pattern. The next part's a little bit harder, because it's if I'm not doing that, what do I do to connect? To me, it's just space. And that can look different for everyone. So I like sitting in the sun for 20 minutes a day and just patting my dog. I get downloads from that, and I get to check in on how I'm feeling physically, mentally, emotionally. I do my best not to attach a story to any of those situations or feelings, but it just allows me to check in. And other people won't love sitting in the sun for 20 minutes. They might be, I want to walk the dog or whatever it is. Making space in this busy, distracted world, really undervalued. And I get that it's uncomfortable as well. Part of it is letting these parts in, like, I'm fucking angry today. I'm angry. It doesn't have to turn into anything. We can acknowledge it. Like, yeah, I'm really angry. If we can speak that to someone else, like, if we can reveal our experience, even better. But sometimes it's like, just acknowledge it yourself, maybe write a journal. It actually doesn't have to be hard. It's more simple than it is complex.
But the thing is, it's generally the first thing we let go of, because we then get caught in that busy pattern. I have to go and do, I have to do this. I have to do this. And it's not until things get very challenging that you look back and you go, what was I doing back then that was, really helping? And it's these little things that are just so important that we don't think makes a massive difference, but it has a huge impact on our days.
I think a good question for business owners is it sustainable? Like, can I keep this up?
Yes.
Because we can stretch a bit and push, and that's cool, but it doesn't mean we have to stay at that level. So sustainability is really important in business. Is like, can I maintain this level? No, I can do it for 30 days, but then I'm going to need to pull back a little bit and regroup and breathe and make space and all the rest of it. So having flexibility in some grey areas of not being just black and white of like, I've got to push or I've got to rest or I've got to escape my life. I think just the little surges are really nice. Getting to know yourself to a point of that's my sustainable level and that's not, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
And it'll grow a little bit, it'll change, it'll be flexible, but that's all part of knowing yourself and, connecting.
And when you've reached your limit of enough is enough and you just need to take some new time. Yeah.
I probably should have done that before I had uncontrollable epileptic seizures. Like, it was probably a sign. Looking at those red flags and not punching through them, going, yeah, my body is telling me that you've got to slow down.
And hence the importance of that, and I do recommend someone do that daily as well, like what you're suggesting. Just that space, just to, in the morning, whether it be before sessions, after sessions, just really connecting in. That's, it's just so game-changing, that 10, 20 minutes from morning.
I had a practice, I think it was last year. Yeah, last year, I think. I just wrote in my journal for 2 minutes every morning. Sometimes it was just one word, but it was just a check in, get it out of my body, write it down, go. 1,000 words of my deepest thoughts. It was just frustrated, angry, anxious, stressed, excited, hungry, like whatever. Like, just what's your present day experience?
Yeah.
For me, I like the process of just putting it into a journal. I just put it on my phone. Just got it out of my body.
Yeah.
This is my human experience right now.
Most of my clients actually do that. Like, when they're going through a challenge, they get so much clarity when they just get everything out of their head. They drop into their body and just get that out on paper, or whether it be on the computer, or whichever works for them. And that's what I was saying before, like these are the little things that we let go of. And then, they're the things that have the biggest impact, because they're like the little breadcrumbs that are leading us to the next thing that is right for us. It's trying to tell us little lessons. It's trying to give us the signs, but we just get so caught up in the busyness that we're just missing the signs. And then we get frustrated and angry because it's not working how we think it should. So yeah, such a great practice. I do it every day as well.
Yeah, there's a funny little analogy. It's like, do we listen to the feather, the brick, or the truck? For me, the truck hit me. The truck had to hit me for me to change.
Yeah.
And, I probably should have listened to at least the brick.
Yes. Well, I had a car accident just over 12 months ago, it'll be 18 months ago now. And that's like when it happened, I wrote the car off. It was like, oh, okay, what is the lesson in this? That was my first thought. And there was lots of lessons that came from that. But just having that awareness of when things like that do happen, it's like, oh, okay, what can I take from that?
What's ticking over in my head just around the whole idea of writing stuff down. One of the things I do with new clients is we have like a 3-hour session to start off, and it's butcher's paper, it's them with texters, and we mind map just their life and all of it. And it's so cool to see how quickly people can join dots to how things operate in their life when it's written down and I can see it visually. Like I think it's a really underrated way to even do business. It's like, can we mind map what's going on and just get a visual, just get it out of our system rather than cycling that remuneration of thinking about it and worrying about it.
Yes, I love that. Do you mind just going into a little bit of detail about your mind map for people that they can use?
Yeah. So it's really simple, and that I think that's the theme. It's like the power and simplicity. Strengths, weaknesses, fears, and dreams. They're the 4 pages. Yeah, it's as simple as going through and writing down our strengths, and it's really funny to see how uncomfortable people get talking about their strengths. And it's kind of like, what's your strength as a partner in business, as a son or daughter? Like, we have these different roles, and it's very quickly that strengths can add up, and they can see that, I'm actually a pretty good person. And then we do the weaknesses, and they're like, well, that's easy. I've got them. And then we link that to our fears and dreams, and what are we scared of and what do we really want? There's magic in that. Like, there's real magic to give words to what our fears are, because our fears have so much grip on how we behave. When we can just write them out and go, shit, I have a fear of that, and that's probably causing that weakness over there. And then the opposite of that is like, what do we want? It's simple, but it's always, I'm not going to use the word enlightening because that sounds naff, but there's good awareness comes from it.
Yeah. And so, in my experience, I'm not, and like tonight, your insight into this is that when I talk to people about their dreams, it's like they do dull themselves down because they don't think that they could do it. Like, there is this fear that, well, I can't actually, I'd like to do this, but I don't think that's even possible for me. So they really dull their dreams down. Yeah,
that's that upper limit theory. I can't possibly do that. And I think that with that, a lot of it can come back to like the fear of change. And I think this is a really interesting phenomenon of like myself and other people can have a fear of, what do I look like if I'm different? How will I be accepted? Will I be accepted? Will the people that love me as me now love me as me if I evolve? Like, the fear of change it's got some real power in it. There's so much. And that, like you said, it's the power of what pulls us down. They're the bars that hold our cage.
Yeah. And I feel like, it's just looping so beautifully, because then, it comes back to having the connection, because when you've got the connection with other people, you have these expanders for people to see what's possible. Like, I look at my coach and, she does freaking $1 million months. It's like, holy shit, like it's possible. Like, and that then helps, that energy from her, that, what she shares, it's like, that's the expander, that's the power of the connection side of it, which, we do need more of in business. And, that's why you and I do what we do, is because, letting people know that they can have their dreams. We just probably need to work through some stuff first, not just do more Facebook ads and more sales calls.
Yeah. It's funny because like the meta part of it for me is I needed to create more space in my life to really feel. And in turn, I spend most of my days helping people find more space in their life so they can feel. I'm nearly having to live the life in order to be congruent, to help others to do the same. And it's kind of the opposite of what I used to do, of like, push, do this, do more, control these levers. It's like the opposite of that. It's just like, breathe. Let's start there. Comes back to that connection self in this crazy, distracted, busy, validating world.
Transformation is a huge key theme in your training. in your coaching, what we've just spoken about. Do you mind just sharing like a success story of a client who significantly changed their life through your coaching, and what key factors really contributed to their transformation?
I have a real aversion to that word.
Transformation?
Yeah. And what the aversion I have to it is when people claim that they're responsible for someone else's transformation. That's the piece for me. There's a real gap in. I am in no way responsible for my client's change. I'll just use that word. But I get that people come because they want to change. There's no denying that there's a change or an outcome that they want that they don't currently have. But that dynamic's there. But part of my work is not setting up a relationship of codependency and allowing the person to really move into their power and to own their shit, but also to own the other side of it, to own the change, the evolution. So I think just the caveat is that I have zero responsibility for other people's change. It's 100% the work that they do on themselves and then how they confront life in a different way. That being said, I've withdrawn responsibility, so that's good. It's so different with so many different people. And again, it's not that one size fits all, but sometimes change can be not reacting and causing a fight. Sometimes change can be being comfortable enough and not triggered enough to sit with an interaction, to sit on it, and then to respond calmly. Sometimes in life, that skill or that adaptation is completely life-changing for someone who might live in an activated nervous system who's always in fight mode. Often it's not the got on a holiday, like the tangible. It's the, how am I humaning? Am I humaning in a way that fills me with stress and anxiety? Or am I humaning in a way that fills me with joy and laughter and grace? And I just smile when I hear client stories and they come back and they're like, oh, this happened. And then instead of doing that, I did this and this is how it felt. I'm just like, oh, that's right. And then they're like, yeah, it felt really good. But I think that's part of the dynamic I think is really important, is to not let them find their feet and their power and their voice. And that, for me, that's a big part of it. So yeah, to answer your question, it's ambiguous because each person comes in with a different set of patterns, and therefore the knock-on effect when they start to understand their patterns is completely different for each person. But really, as a general theme, it's, can we live a life with more joy and laughter and grace than stress, overwhelm and anxiety? They're kind of the end of the spectrum. So it's like, can we at least move from the shitty end and start to move towards the other end and balance that out a little bit? Never going to be one or the other, but can we have a existence that has more smiles, more hugs, more banter, and can it be fun as opposed to can it be a stressful, depressive, anxious fucking existence?
You raise something so powerful, because I say this all the time to my clients, it's like, when I get to this place, then I'll be happy, then I'll do this, then I'll be do that, la, 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 la. And it's like, yeah, that's all well and good. But then you'll get to that position and then they'll be like, oh, the next goal. It's like, well, what about if you actually saw the joy in the sunrise this morning, the joy in the cup of coffee, the kiss from your partner, the hug from the partner? Like, these are all the magic moments that matter leading up to that big thing that you're aiming for. And it's like, wow, what a change in perspective, instead of that go, like you said, with the stress, the overwhelm, the anxiety, trying to get some place that you think is going to make you happy, when it's the little things every day right now that are the most magical that are going on.
Thinking about it as you were speaking, a lot of people's transformation occur when nothing externally actually happens. It's an internal transformation.
Yes.
So if someone saw them down the street, they might smile differently or they might hold themselves differently, but their life externally may be exactly the same. And that's probably summarizes the type of transformations that I try and work with, even though that word makes me feel a bit gross.
We have covered so much gold, like we always do. Like, we start a conversation and we honestly just go with the flow. It's absolutely brilliant. So what advice would you give to someone who's at a starting point for exploring their patterns and embarking on a journey towards a more meaningful life?
The first part is probably be kind to yourself to start off with. Often the only time we'll look at this stuff is when we're scraping our butt on the bottom of the barrel. And then we can have some guilt and shame and some negative feelings around, like, I'm at the bottom of the barrel. 47 years old, I shouldn't be at the bottom of the barrel. So it can turn into this real shame spiral. So I think the first part is just a little bit of self-kindness. And then with that little bit of energy that's not pushing you further down that negative path, there's a little bit of love and kindness and compassion. I think it's like, what do I need? Like, do I need to take Monday afternoons off? Do I need to not work on Saturdays? And I'm just thinking more from a business owner's perspective, because this is a podcast, but it's like, what gift can I give myself? And I think it's important to know that the gift is not the solution. The gift is to give space to let the solution drop in. And I think I try and in the past find the solution in the heaviness, and you won't find it. So it's like similar to what you were talking about with your client. It's like, stop, slow down, go back and feel, what do you need? It's that. And so, yeah, be kind, make some space, and then just be open to what downloads drop in and trust that you know what the answer will be.
What a perfect way to finish. Thank you so much, Rick. That is so thought-provoking, and no doubt that conversation has really empowered many people. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much. How can people find you?
I have a website.
Yes.
So I like the idea of being mysterious, but it doesn't work that well in business. So rickwatson.com.au. I have on there a homecoming email community, and it's really fun. We do lots of this type of work around coming home to yourself. So just jump on that, and that's the best way to connect with me. I'm a ghost on Instagram. And I think probably the other thing, within weeks, I'll have my new little podcast, Immining, coming out. So that's just another avenue to have more conversations like this and allow people to connect more with themselves and go from there.
Love, love, love. Thank you so much. It's been a real honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.